Migrants flooding New York City's justice system, making up 75% of all arrests in Midtown in New York City. It says pathetic sanctuary city laws handcuff cops. They can't do anything. They can arrest these folks. They're not going to be turned over to ICE. They just got to cut them loose on the street. We'll see you at your court hearing. I mean, this is literally what we're doing. Let's get into it. Here we go. I think what's particularly annoying is that you keep hearing this narrative of, the illegals coming into the United States to the southern border, they're a lot less likely to commit a crime. And you're just like, those aren't the stories that I'm hearing continuously. That's not exactly the storyline that we've been talking about in Aurora, Colorado, have we? Big debacle in Aurora, if you've been following that one. Have they taken over apartment complexes? Have they not? What are they doing? What's going on? Yeah, you've got the criminal element, not just Tren de Aragua, but you've just got, low-level criminals running around big cities like New York City, like Chicago, that because they've got these sanctuary city laws, because they've gone down the road of we are virtue signaling sanctuary cities, never turn our back on somebody in need. Well, what's unfortunate is that with the millions of folks that have come into the United States, a bunch of them are committing crimes actively and they're being arrested. And now we're talking 75% of arrests, just 3/4. That's insane. Because all of these arrests, I mean, not all of them, but a vast majority of them could have been avoided if we didn't just, come on in, and just basically parole them to the interior of the United States. You came into the country as a felon. You committed a felony act by just illegally crossing the border. Come on in. We'll get you a ride. How about we get you a ride to Denver? Let's send you to Denver. Somebody in the live stream earlier this morning was saying they were asking about Aurora's sanctuary city status. They don't have one. They were ixnay on the illegals. They looked their mayor looked at the cost of what it was going to take to bring all these folks in and basically said, we don't have the budget to do that. We are not going to be a self-described sanctuary city. But because Aurora is next door to Denver, and Denver has taken on 40,000, something like that, huge number relative to the population, just, an incredible number. And then they wonder why their budgets are all out of whack and they just can't figure out what to do. Chicago being the other major city, they've got almost $1 billion deficit. Gee, do you think taking on all those illegals might have had something to do with that as well? You got shrinking income, expenses that you didn't expect to have. Oh, these illegals, they're expensive. We got to feed them, medical care, housing. That's a lot of money. Jefferson Maldonado, a 31-year-old migrant illegal from Ecuador, has been arrested in New York City 5 times since arriving in the U.S. earlier this year. He's a frequent flyer member, right? Of New York City's finest. His latest bust was for stealing a pair of pants and a beer from the Target near Herald Square. Asked why he committed the crime, the migrant thief said, "I wanted to change my clothes and think." All right. Wanted to sit down and think about my life, about what to do, because this is not a normal world. What kind of horse's ass answer is that? This is a guy that he's thinking that this is just an event in his life. Oh, I got arrested in the United States and I'm illegal. I don't have the right to be here. Reason for stealing from your community that I'm not legally a part of is I wanted to change my clothes. All right. But yeah, that's not how we do it. Despite what you've heard, you don't steal stuff just because you need a change of clothes. You wash them. Yeah, that's what you do. Washing machine, dryer, it's a thing. Okay. And then think. So you needed to shoplift to think? That's what we're saying? Wanted to sit down and think about my life. Well, how's your life going? Apparently pretty good, because he's been arrested 5 times and nothing's going to happen to him. This is the thinking. This is literally the thinking of so many of these illegals that come into the United States. They have nothing to worry about if they commit a crime. I mean, this is ideal because they're coming from an environment where, especially Venezuelan, the criminal element there is just nutso, right? I mean, killing cops is no big deal. In fact, Tren de Aragua has been given the green light to go ahead and shoot at, police here in the United States. So yeah, that doesn't make one feel warm and fuzzy, does it? No. Reading about another news story, Tren de Aragua in Miami. I mean, they're all over. They've got their fingers into criminal activities all over, and they specialize in human trafficking and sex trafficking. That's nice. That's nice. Good money in that. Apparently. Across New York, recently arrived migrants are flooding the criminal justice system at far higher rates than public officials have acknowledged. Really? Are you shocked to hear that? Huh. They've been burying that fact. Why would that be? Yeah. All of this has to do, and this is just straight up politics. And you have Kamala Harris, who was the border czar. Oh, I'm sorry. She was just responsible for the origins of, immigration from 3 countries. Couldn't even get that right. She's so helpless. I mean, she's just literally, yeah. Looking forward to that debate, though. I'm going to watch that debate. That'll be interesting. Is she going to cackle? Is she going to do the Kamala cackle? Probably, right? Police sources shared with the Post a staggering estimate that as many as 75% of the people they're arresting in Midtown in recent months for crimes like assault, robbery, domestic violence are migrants. In parts of Queens, the figure is more than 60%. Sources their estimate. Well, you can comfortably say the strong majority of criminal activity in Midtown and in Queens is committed by illegals, period. End stop, right? Full stop, whatever that saying is. And is this shocking? No, this isn't shocking. Anybody who's been concerned about the southern border has been saying this for years, that this is an issue. This is a real problem. Because you've got a criminal element in the country that shouldn't be here. Now, some of the other arguments that I have a real hard time with are, yeah, but the illegals that coming into the country as a group, they individually commit. That doesn't make any sense. As a group, they commit far less crimes than their percentage represented in the population. Well, that might be true, but these are people that don't necessarily have to be here. The Biden administration, the Biden-Harris administration, we need to start saying that. The Biden-Harris administration is responsible for how many millions of people coming into the country illegally, and then we just ship them to a sanctuary city and then wonder why 75% of the people being arrested are illegals? Yeah. I mean, so many of these folks are coming. They are literally running from violent situations. And I don't blame families. I don't blame, folks that are literally trying to get a better life put together, but you have to vet everybody. And clearly not everybody is being vetted. And then even if they are, we're allowing them to remain in the United States. And even when these individuals get arrested, they aren't deported, and they are still eligible for housing as part of the sanctuary city program. You've got a bunch of charges. You got 4 or 5 different charges. That's okay. Grab a pillow. There's your bed over there. It's all good. We're going to set you up with some housing. Housing just being shelter, right? On any given day, Big Apple criminal court dockets are packed with asylum seekers who have run afoul of the law. Not shocking. I mean, you look at this guy here. He doesn't have a care in the world, right? He's got 3 cops around him. He's just like, hey, it's okay. Venezuelan. I got busted for this little assault, this little whatever it is that he's being Maybe just came across the border. Who knows? But doesn't care because he's like, hey, I'm still in the United States. This is great. And they're not going to boot me out. I mean, with Venezuela emptying out a third of their population and emptying out their prisons, where do you think they're going? They're coming right here. We know that for a fact. The deal with Aurora, Colorado, and with the apartment complexes there, with the attorney for, I podcasted this a couple of days ago, I think, the attorney for the management, CBZ management company, had sent a letter to state officials 5 weeks, I think, before the major story blew, that, hey, they've taken over an apartment complex or multiple apartment complexes. The attorneys had written to state officials weeks ahead of that story. So it wasn't like that story just all of a sudden is here. Oh, did they take over? Did they not take over? Oh, that's overblown. And literally the governor was aware of the situation, and he said that it was a figment of one of the council person's imagination that this complex in Aurora, Colorado had been taken over by a violent prison gang called Tren de Aragua. He said it's a figment of that councilwoman's imagination. He literally said that. So is it a leap of logic to say that there are just arrests taking place? And we know now it's over 3/4 in Midtown. I mean, no, that makes absolute sense. This makes absolute sense. But it doesn't look good for the current administration, the Biden-Harris administration, because if Harris has been in office for 3.5 years, and this is where we sit, why would we elect her for another 4? Right? I mean, why would we go there? Why would we do that? Well, because we have Trump derangement syndrome and we hate Trump. Yeah. That to me, it doesn't make any sense. I hate the guy. Well, yeah, but okay. So was your life better under Trump or Biden? And if you say Biden, you're lying. You are lying. You're lying. New York City eliminated a tool to get rid of violent criminals. What a mess. Talking about the sanctuary city laws. And Eric Adams' administration, the mayor of New York City, they are being investigated. Their homes are being raided by the FBI left and right. Not only do you have Tiffany Henyard being investigated in Dalton, and she's kind of one of the small players. You've had so many mayors that have just been the FBI. Hey, what's going on here? So many investigations. But those aren't related to the crimes being committed by the illegals. But it kind of gives you an idea. All right, FBI is investigating there. What else is going on? Is it a shock that 75% of the arrests being made? No, absolutely not. So the sanctuary city law is pathetic. It's disgusting. It's crazy, because under that whole notion, they're trying to have us believe that everybody coming into the country is, a family. It's a mother and a father and their 2 little children, and they're just trying to make a better life for themselves, except for the thousands of prison gang members who've now affiliated here in the United States. And they're in all major big cities. I mean, they just are. Whether or not you've heard stories about them, if you are a sanctuary city, you have got folks from Venezuela there, because you've had a third of the country's population dump out, 6 million, 7 million, something like that. So would it be, is it shocking that prison gang is in your community if you're in a sanctuary city? No. It's just reality. Making matters worse, police sources say word has gotten out on the shelters about the city's lax bail guidelines. How about no cash bail? Meaning migrants know they're going to get kicked back onto the street quickly after they're nabbed. And they still get the immigration hearing. I mean, you get housing, you still get all the benefits. We're just bending over backwards to bring in illegals to commit criminal acts on our own population. Does that seem like a smart thing to do? No. It's nutso. It's literally nutso. A City Hall spokesperson pointed to Mayor Eric Adams' previous calls for the city council to change the sanctuary city laws. That'll never happen in New York City. Last week, Adams said, right now, we don't have the authorization to be able to go and coordinate with ICE. We have to follow the law. That's a stupid law. If somebody's committed a crime, boop, out they go. Toss them. Because it's not like ICE and the police should be working on opposite ends. No, they should be coordinating efforts because it's the law. And if you got illegals, running around and they know they're not going to be deported, then why wouldn't they keep doing this? And that's why you've got this escalation of criminal numbers. Police officers are prohibited from asking about the immigration status of crime victims, witnesses, or suspects, and therefore the New York Police Department doesn't track data pertaining to immigration statuses. As a result, the only people who have a full understanding of the scale of the problem are police officers and court workers who see it day in and day out. I would say about 75% of the arrests in Midtown Manhattan are migrants, mostly for robberies, assaults, domestic incidents, and selling counterfeit items. Selling counterfeit items, just low-level crime. He said the figure, and some, shouldn't say low-level because robberies and assaults, that's not low. That's not what we want to be seeing, right? He said the figure is an estimate because you can't be 100% sure unless you arrest them in a shelter or they're dumb enough to give you a shelter address. Okay, but even then, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you know that they're illegal or not because it's not going to change the situation. They're not going to get deported. Another Manhattan cop said that excluding petty larcenies at drugstores, the number of local arrests involving migrants is easily 75%, noting that most who get caught shoplifting go for the more pricey branded goods. They come to the United States and they can pick out that store, right? They can't be bothered with lower end stores. They like Lululemon and Sunglass Hut. I like Lululemon. Sunglass Hut, I think Sunglass Hut is wildly overpriced. Lululemon is too. But at the end of the day, Lululemon's got some decent clothes, made in a sweatshop in China somewhere, I'm sure. But they're fashionable. So, yeah. He said, adding that migrants are behind most of the pickpocketing and phone and chain snatches the New York Police Department is encountering. Most of them. So they've just set up shop in New York City. And folks wonder, why is this happening? What's going on? Look at this police officer. He's on a scooter and they've got illegal scooters and he's trying to take them down. Problem is visible in Queens Court too. There's days we have so many migrant cases we have to call in for extra Spanish interpreters. A law enforcement officer at Queens Criminal Courthouse told the Post. Got anybody else in here that speaks the old Espanol? Because we need some more people up in here because there's nobody else that is able to translate what these folks are saying because knowingly, yeah, right? That's what you do in court. Well, I don't know. And then, then you don't have to take responsibility for criminal activities. While many of the crimes are domestic incidents or petty thefts, others are far more heinous, sometimes involving gang violence or vicious sexual assaults. Vicious sexual assaults on top of murder. We've seen quite a number of those. And again, these are crimes that just flat out shouldn't be happening because these people should not be in the country. Period. And if we had a vetting process, these folks wouldn't be here. Venezuelan migrant Yurlex Daniel Guzman Quintero was arraigned in Queens Criminal Court on August 28th, accused of a deplorable act of sexual abuse against his girlfriend, in which he viciously choked her and held a knife to her head. Okay, but he's not going to get deported. I mean, that's no big deal. I mean, that's just life in New York City now. No deportation, and the world's your oyster if you're an illegal. The same day, migrant Dominique Moran Flores, or Dioniso Moran Flores, was arraigned in Manhattan Criminal Court for allegedly R-wording his 5-year-old daughter. He was ordered held on $150,000 bail. All right, that guy's not getting out. So, okay, so the lowest common denominator is if you sexually assault your own child, a 5-year-old daughter. That is horrific. That is absolutely, I mean, that's just sick to think about, isn't it? That's just, ugh. Meanwhile, Tren de Aragua, the vicious Venezuelan prison gang wreaking armed havoc around the country, has set up shop in New York City and is already tied to hundreds of crimes, including the shootings of 2 New York Police Department police officers who were trying to arrest a member in June. Remember that one? And everybody's like, what's going on here? We got a prison gang here. Well, now we know with the whole Colorado thing, with Aurora, Colorado, it's a thing. Whether or not they've taken over those apartment complexes, that's not the point. The point is they've set up shop. And they've set up shop in numerous North American cities. Portland, yep, they're there. We just know that to be a fact. Guaranteed, some element of them is here in Seattle. Why wouldn't they be? If you're in Portland, you know, just go up the highway a couple hours, you're in Seattle. New territory, wide open territory. They're not going to get deported. Seattle, another sanctuary city. We don't have as many illegals in Seattle because I think it's just too far to come. And we don't give out as many benefits as other cities such as Denver or Chicago or New York City. We don't give out the $10,000 debit card that gets loaded up with $1,000 a pop. We don't do that in Seattle. We do a lot of other ridiculous, nonsensical, liberal, progressive nonsense, but we haven't gone down that road. And I think a lot of it just has to do with we don't have a huge population here and we're not handing out all the freebies all day long. We like to hand out clean new drug needles. That's what we like to do. That's Seattle's claim to fame. Is we got to make it, we might not be famous for our illegals, but we're famous for our enabling the drug users. That's, and enabling now, one of the stories in Seattle that's come up is enabling the graffiti artists. There are apparently 8,500 plus tags along I-5 corridor in Seattle. 8,500. It looks terrible. It looks awful. Seattle's supposed to be one of those, beautiful cities, and some parts of it are very pretty. But you get on the interstate, you get on the major interstate, you get on I-90, 520. The minute you hit Seattle, it just becomes this, oh, where are we? This is Escape from New York type graffiti going on here. This isn't good. This is 1970s New York City graffiti. Just, it's a terrible look. It's awful. It's awful. We should give a year mandatory in prison, not jail, prison for graffiti artists. And then every time they recommit after that, up it to 5 and then up it to 10. Just keep them in. I have no patience for graffiti. It's art. No, it's not. It's people abusing public property or private property with what they think is something cool. And it's just not. It's terrible. It looks terrible. And I don't care what you say. It's a stupid thing to do. So the cops added that the Biden-Harris administration's lax border policies combined with sanctuary city laws have allowed the problem to fester. And why wouldn't it? Because these folks come here and realize they're not going to get deported. They can do anything they want, like steal some clothes and get a beer because they need to sit down and just think because this life isn't the way that they thought it would have worked out. Therefore, they're going to steal from a store near you. Okay. All right. They don't care if they get arrested. They laugh if they get sent to Rikers. Where they come from, they get tortured in jail. I don't know if you have seen like the El Salvador videos or pictures where they are lined up in some of those really strict maximum security prisons. That looks like hell. That looks like hell. That's what we need to do to folks to deter them from crime. You know what I mean? That's one way to deter them is put them in a hellish existence. But that's not what we're doing. Here's your pillow. Here's your bed. Here's your food. Here, just we're bending over backwards to make it so that people can do whatever they want and there's no repercussions. And the tax-paying citizens bear the brunt of all this. We're the ones that end up just getting, shellacked when we shouldn't. But, ask the Biden-Harris administration about that, and they'll just say, there's no crime wave. It's not really happening. It's a figment of your imagination. So you've still got about 64,000 migrants in New York City's shelter and social service system. Big number. I mean, a huge number. So why wouldn't we expect this criminal activity to remain constant for a while? Yeah, you will see those numbers. The area has become a third world country, and it seems like City Hall doesn't care about the taxpayers who live and work here. That's kind of the end of that's the bottom line, isn't it? This seems to be on purpose. And because they could easily just go ahead and change sanctuary city laws, but they're not willing to. Because I think they figure these folks will become voters someday. Hey, let's give them 100% down payment programs. I've covered that in Washington, California, and Oregon. Examples of how to get a home in the United States. And if you committed a crime, no big deal. We'll work on that. We'll get you in here, and you can become a voter. Vote Democrat. All right. That's what I think's going on. That's it for me. Thanks so much for being here. I'll see you in the next segment.